The search for the victims of the 1921 Tulsa massacre continues, with researchers now discovering close to a dozen bodies. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, at least 10 bodies have been found in an unmarked mass grave during a search yesterday at a Tulsa cemetery. The 1921 massacre left an estimated 300 mostly black Tulsa residents dead and 800 more wounded. Jackie Ibanez has more on where these remains were found, but why city officials haven't linked them to the massacre yet.
I can confirm that we have identified the outlines of at least 10 coffins.
Archaeologists unearthing at least 10 more sets of human remains Wednesday at Oaklawn Cemetery in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Experts believe the bodies found in a shallow mass unmarked grave could belong to victims of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre.
They just put them all in one place, dug a long, big trench, and placed them there.
The horrific event took place almost 100 years ago when a mob of white residents stormed a prominent African-American neighborhood, destroying buildings and homes and killing hundreds of black people.
I just hope that the ancestors and the bones in the earth keep rattling, because we're listening. We're listening, we're watching, we're waiting.
Researchers examining records from local funeral homes stumbled upon documents that suggested 18 people killed in the massacre were buried in this cemetery. But the city is not yet confirming these remains belong to massacre victims. Extensive testing still needs to be done. Experts are expected to examine the bodies for gunshot wounds and other signs of trauma that could be a cause of death. Massacre descendants hope this discovery will bring solace to affected families.
Having this progress is very, very satisfying to me, and I'm sure to our community as well.
Authorities believe there could be additional mass grave sites across the city. Well, we've got another beautiful day outside, but you know what? It's about to get chilly. Michael Hayslip joins us with the first look at the forecast.
Before we get there, I went after the morning show, went and got gas. And gas stations facing north-south, right? I go to open up my car door. Luckily, I didn't let go of the door because the wind got the door and just about pulled me out of the car. I mean, to say blustery, that's an understatement. That's why we've got a wind advisory up until 5 o'clock this evening. Now look at this wind tracker right here. These are not wind gusts. This is sustained winds that we're going through right now. 23 miles per hour in Chanute, 18 miles per hour in Joplin. Now, with that being said, as Tanya alluded to, it is a gorgeous Thursday, just a little cloud cover hanging down to the south, and it's spotty. I mean, it kind of pops up every now and then. Load that image. You can see down, like I said, down to the south, of course, Freeman just south of Joplin right there. It's kind of picking up a little bit, but hey, we're dry right now. That's going to be subject to change. And with the temperature sitting at 82, guess what? We're 1 degree off of tying a record at Joplin Regional Airport. Our temperatures right now ranging everywhere from high 70s to low 80s, not a huge differential like what we saw yesterday. And we're going to top out, like I said, right around that record. If we get to 85, we eclipsed it. But look at that right-hand panel. 43 tomorrow morning. How's that going to happen? We'll come up here in just a little bit, Tanya. We're going to talk about a cold front that's dropping in because I don't want everybody to be deceived by that 72 on Friday. That's simply when we turn the clock to the next day. Tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be a tad bit frigid.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a little different, that's for sure. All right, enjoy today though, right?
Oh, gorgeous, yeah. Gorgeous, just fight the wind.
All right, thanks, Michael. Well, President Donald Trump and his Democratic challenger Joe Biden are preparing to square off in their final debate tonight at Belmont University in Nashville. There are new rules this time, including a mute feature on the microphones. CBS's Natalie Brand is there with a look at what's at stake.
The stage is set for the final showdown between President Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden. Plexiglass is visible around the candidates' podiums, and there will also be new rules to try and curb the chaos that occurred during their first matchup in Cleveland.
It's like two kindergartners going at it.
I'm interested in them having a debate about what they're actually talking about.
A mute button will allow each candidate 2 uninterrupted minutes to answer questions before an open discussion.
Well, I think the mute is very unfair.
The latest CBS News Battleground Tracker poll shows the president trailing in key swing states, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. President Trump has remained on the campaign trail this week, while Biden has been prepping out of the public eye and relying on top surrogate and former boss President Barack Obama.
It could come down to a handful of voters just like you.
Tonight's matchup in Nashville will be the final time the candidates share the stage to make their closing cases, and strategy could be key.
Some advisors are suggesting the president take a more low-key approach.
The last thing I'd say to the president, just have fun, be happy, let Biden talk, let him explain away.
Biden is bracing for more personal attacks on him and his son, but advisors say he'll focus on the issues.
He's looking forward to having an opportunity to speak directly to the American people about what he's going to do to bring us back from this horrific COVID-19 pandemic.
More than 42 million Americans have already cast their ballots, with just 12 days to go until the election. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Nashville.
You can catch tonight's final presidential debate beginning at 8 o'clock right here on KOAM. The Senate Judiciary Committee voted yes this morning on President Trump's Supreme Court nominee. The Democrats on the committee boycotted the vote on Judge Amy Coney Barrett's nomination, calling it a sham process during an ongoing election. All 12 Republicans supported sending Barrett's nomination to the full Senate. The CDC says it is changing what it defines as a close contact with someone who is sick. The new guidance says close contact means being within 6 feet of an infected person for a total of 15 minutes, even when those 15 minutes are spread out over a full day. The change comes as states across the U.S. work to tackle the surge in new COVID cases. The FDA is also holding its first meeting today about COVID-19 vaccines. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next at KOAM News at noon, we'll follow up on a missing hiker found nearly 2 weeks after she set out to explore a national park in Utah, why her sister says she was found in the nick of time. And later, we're making chili dogs, DC style. A search and rescue official involved in finding a missing hiker in Utah told a local TV station parts of her story don't add up. Holly Cortier was rescued in Zion National Park on Sunday, 12 days after she was last seen. The National Park Service says it's still investigating. Carter Evans spoke with Cortier's sister, who told us more about the circumstances leading to her disappearance and rescue.
She would have died for sure if we wouldn't have found her.
Jamie Cortier Strong says her sister Holly was severely malnourished and had reportedly lost 15 pounds by the time rescuers discovered her after nearly 2 weeks missing in Zion National Park.
She was crying to me and saying that she would just pray to be found.
Her sister says Holly was planning a solo trip to the park, but never told her family.
She thought, I'll just go and be with nature for a couple days.
It sounds like she wanted to be off the grid.
She did. Initially, she wanted to be off the grid. She did not want to be off the grid for 12 days.
To make matters worse, she started fasting a couple of days before the trip and intended to keep fasting.
And so she became extremely weak very early on, the first day or two, because she wasn't eating or drinking.
She says that made her sister extremely disoriented, at one point hitting her head on a tree, causing a concussion.
She just said that she felt like she was dying a slow death.
After days of agony, keeping track of the passing time on a nearby tree, Jamie says her sister was finally found by a woman and her son on a hike.
We knew she had that hammock with her, and they spotted the hammock hanging in the tree, and they called in a tip.
Jamie and the rest of the family are just happy Holly's safe now, but they say she's learned a valuable lesson.
When we explained to her how this is not a normal thing to do, you can go off the grid properly and not have people be concerned. I think she now understands that. She didn't mean to cause worry.
Carter Evans, CBS News.
We're just glad she's safe. Still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
Our week-long tour of Washington, D.C. continues with a smoking good treat. Stick around. You're not going to want to miss this one.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
Windy and warm may be a little bit of an understatement as we've got a chance to shatter an October 22nd record. But first off, I want to talk about the wind advisory that we have in effect right now. Earlier this morning, we were still seeing gusts of around 20 miles per hour, and that was just the beginning of it. Now we're approaching the 40-mile-an-hour mark. 31 is our last one at Joplin Regional Airport. Check out what Topeka has just measured, a 51-mile-an-hour gust coming right out of the south. And what we've seen since yesterday with those warmer temperatures, remember that cold front kind of settled right there over northwest Arkansas at the beginning of the week. And so it's as much as a 30-degree change up in Iola from where we stood at this point yesterday. And of course, down to the southern portion of southwest Missouri where it took longer to cool down and quicker to warm up. We're seeing kind of negligible temperature changes from what we had on Wednesday. Now, magic number for today will go 84 degrees. We're sitting at 82 in CJ, 80 in Chanute, 78 in Aurora, and 79 in Miami. Here's why that's the magic number, because if we get to 84, we're going to tie the October 22nd record that dates back to 1963. I think we got a good chance to easily cruise above 85 in some places. But remember, we got to use old Joplin Regional Airport as our ultimate decider when it comes to the record there. Chanute going to have to get up to 86 for the record. Now, monthly precip, we can update the drought monitor. We knew it wasn't going to get any better. Watch the expansion of the extreme drought throughout southwest Missouri. But remember, the rain that we picked up this week, it'll begin to kick in by the time we get to next Thursday's drought monitor. Not only that, we're going to have some good news on the 7-day forecast precipitation-wise, but I also want to talk about the expansion of the moderate category of the drought all throughout southeast Kansas and down throughout northeast Oklahoma. It's no secret that we're precip starved, but hopefully we can begin to move in the right direction. We're not going to do that today as we remain very, very dry. Cloud cover down to the south. Now, we talked about the tan area. That indicates the wind advisory. You go, what are these other colors popping up? Well, how about a freeze watch just on the border of us? How about a freeze warning that stretches from western Kansas up into Nebraska? Look at this dividing line that we're seeing right along the jet stream right here as the cold front just hovers off to our northwest. I mean, we're talking about temperatures right now in Cody, Nebraska. We can kind of make fun of Nebraska a little bit. A 60-degree difference between what we're seeing in the bustling metropolis of Cody compared to that of Joplin, Missouri. So here's what's going to happen. As that cold front begins to sag back down, it's going to retreat back to where it was earlier this week. We see the development of thunderstorm activity right along that line. Late tonight, early Friday, we're still looking at the 70s in Joplin as we turn the clock. I want you to remember that 72 number right there. But look at Wichita. Look at Kansas City. They're already bearing the brunt. And so as the storm drops through, we're going to drop into the 40s as well. Not looking at anything severe. May hear some rumbles of thunder and whatnot, but we are packing some pretty heavy rain along that band just in time for the Friday morning commute. Want you to be ready, want the kids to be ready, want the grandkids to be ready when they prepare to get out the door. Now, as it all moves off to the southeast, we're going to dry off here by the time we get into Friday afternoon. But whoo, I tell you what, going to be a stark reminder of what some late fall, early winter temperatures can feel like. Coming off of what could be a record high today, drop down to the 40s tomorrow. So Tanya, here's what I want to reiterate on the 7-day forecast. Hit me, Nathan. All right, that right there, that's 72. That's 72 when we turn the clock. That is not for the afternoon. I just want everybody to be prepared. Make sure you got the coats, make sure you got the long underwear, because if you leave early in the morning, you'll be like, oh, this is delightful.
It's only going to get colder, not
right. It's just
warmer.
going to drop straight down. That's what I wanted to reiterate.
That's right. All right. Thank you, Michael. We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Sergeant Leroy Schulte in the U.S. Army. The soldier from Afton, Oklahoma, joined the 707th Ordnance. He was stationed above the 38th parallel from 1953 to 1955 during the Korean War. To Leroy Schulte, we thank you, our four-state hero. Ben's Chili Bowl has been a landmark restaurant in Washington, D.C. since 1958, and today Howard recreates its famous homemade chili dogs in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Our tasty week-long tour of Washington, D.C. continues, and we haven't stopped for a minute. This morning, we took a brisk walk on the National Mall, which is often referred to as America's front yard. The mall is a park that connects the Capitol to the Lincoln Memorial. And as you would imagine, after all that sightseeing, we really worked up quite an appetite. So we headed over to Ben's Chili Bowl, which has been a landmark since 1958. Here we can find locals as well as politicians and celebrities rolling up their sleeves as they dig into the dish that has made Ben's famous. It starts off with a 1/4 pound of smoked sausage that's half pork, half beef, that's cooked to perfection on a griddle. From there, it goes into a steamed bun before getting topped with yellow mustard, lots of chopped onions, and smothered with Ben's signature chili sauce. And as we've seen over the years, lots of things have changed here in Washington. But thankfully, Ben's recipe for chili has remained the same since the day they opened. So when you visit DC, make sure you stop by Ben's. But until then, we've created a recipe for what we call Ben's Chili Dog, which we think is the next best thing to being here, and you can find it online. Now I'm off to explore more food finds. I'm Howard from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a smoking good way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4 state market prices.
Remember, we got the wind advisory all the way until 5 p.m. and close to record high temperatures. Now let's talk about the important things. Thunderstorms develop early tomorrow morning, and watch this. 72, 72, 40s. Telling you. Don't be deceived when you get up in the morning. Bundle up tomorrow. Here's a little over to Dow with a look at what's coming up tonight at 5.
Well, at 5, street artist Banksy once again proves he's a painter you can bank on. His latest piece up for auction, a take on Monet's Water Lily Pond, smashed expectations, fetched nearly $10 million at auction. Why he's becoming one of the most collectible artists of our time. Plus, the City of Pittsburgh Public Housing Authority launches a new landlord incentive program. It's aimed at increasing affordable housing options for families. And with COVID driving changes in education, a new report says it's increasing the workload for teachers. Hope you'll join us at 5.
All right, thank you for joining us for KOAM News at Noon. We'll see you right back here, 5 o'clock.